Welcome to Discussing Fitchburg Now. I'm your host, Sam Squalia. This week's show is a recovery conversation. We're talking about recovery from substance abuse and what that looks like for different people and what that can look like for your loved ones. So we're going to start with a conversation between myself, Susan Buchholz, and Tara Rivera of Facing Addiction and Beyond in Fitchburg and the Joint Coalition on Health. We're going to learn a little update on what's been happening with Facing Addiction and Beyond in Fitchburg and the Joint Coalition on Health upcoming meetings. So watch that, and then we will come back and have a roundtable discussion on recovery. Hi, Sam Squalia here with Susan Buchholz and Tara Rivera of Facing Addiction and Beyond and the Joint Coalition on Health. Right, so we're going to get a little update on what's been happening with Facing Addiction and Beyond, Joint Coalition on Health, and other ways that people can find help if they need it. Right?
Sure. Sam, thanks for having us. The last time we were here, I think we talked a little bit about facing addiction in Fitchburg and beyond, and the fact that we had this wonderful opportunity to work with a national partner to address addiction in our community.
Mm-hmm. We had gotten that grant about a year ago, is that right?
It was about a year and a half ago that we were identified of one of just 15 across the country to work with Facing Addiction, which is a national organization, and we've been supporting a national action plan by working locally on the issues that are important to people across the country. Mm-hmm. And we've been spending a lot of time educating the community and providing educational forums that are open to the public, free and open to the public, to help people understand the physiology of addiction, the continuum of care. It's a very, there's a lot of information and there's a lot of confusion and frustration around addiction, and so we've been trying to help people understand what their options are and also understand some of the causes of addiction.
And help to break that stigma of addiction by talking about it really, right, and introducing different programs so that people can have those conversations.
Absolutely. And we've done, I think that, you know, I've loved the work that we've done thus far. I love having that open communication and dialogue. I think that, you know, just being vocal about, even myself, just about being in recovery has prompted lots of conversation, and maybe not in a community forum, but maybe someone will grab me after, or maybe I'll get a phone call, or maybe I'll get a text message or a Facebook message. So it's been, I think, extremely helpful, and I think the community's been very responsive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So what's upcoming with Facing Addiction in Fitchburg and Beyond?
So we're constantly working on something, and you know, we've had several requests from the community to develop this training, and Tara does many of the trainings, and they're adapted to different audiences, so that is ongoing, those community trainings. We are also planning in the fall an advocacy and community organizing training that will happen in October. We'll have more information, more details to follow. Mm-hmm. on
and
that.
You can go to Facing Addiction in Fitchburg and Beyond Facebook page.
Facebook page.
And
that's right.
Is it also on the Joint Coalition of Health Facebook page?
Website.
Where else is it?
Yes, it is. Yep. It's on the Facebook page, and you can also reach out to us. Our meetings are free and open to the public. In fact, we have a meeting tomorrow. The Joint Coalition on Health has a meeting tomorrow at 9 o'clock at RCA.
May 23rd, Thursday, May 23rd at Recovery Centers of America in Westminster.
9 a.m.
9 a.m.
And we'll be hosting Dr. Poblacion from Boston Medical Center and Children's Health Watch, and she'll be coming to share information about the well-being of children across the state of Massachusetts and what some of the challenges are, and she'll be also making some policy recommendations, and we will have a panel discussion with a diverse group of people who have a lot of information to share about the well-being of children across the state, and that's, you know, certainly recovery and addiction intersects with children and families and homelessness. So those are all issues that cannot be separated from each other.
And you can go to any Joint Coalition on Health meeting. It's the third Thursday of every month at Recovery Centers of America at 9 a.m.
Yes, that's correct.
So segueing into this discussion, how about we talk about how to get help?
Yes, so a lot of people struggle with addiction. The person that's struggling with addiction may not be ready to admit that they have a problem or acknowledge that they have a problem yet. A lot of the phone calls that I get are from family members, loved ones, wife, mother.
What can we do?
So, right. So I always first and foremost tell the loved ones that they need to get some support for themselves. So I always refer people to Learn to Cope, just for some support to be in a community of people that are struggling with the same kind of things that you're struggling with.
Learn to Cope.
Learn to Cope is a support group for those who have loved ones that are struggling with addiction. They have meetings every Tuesday night in Gardner at Haywood Hospital at 7 p.m. So that's kind of first and foremost. When a plane's going down, they always tell you to put your air mask on first before you can help the person next to you. So as someone that, you love someone that's struggling with addiction, you can very easily get taken down with them, if you will. So I always encourage them to make sure that they're doing self-care and they're staying as well as possible. So I kind of usually refer them to that. And then when someone's ready to get the help, I can kind of talk to that person. I usually assess where they're at. I determine what level of care that they require, and then I go ahead and put a placement treatment in place. So whether they want to go to Recovery Centers of America, if they have insurance that we don't accept at Recovery Centers, then I refer them elsewhere. I never just say I don't take that insurance and here, try this, call this 1-800 number. I connect with another facility, I secure a bed for them, and then I connect the two. So I just very much a warm handoff. I'm very hands-on, very involved. It's important because people can very quickly change their mind or slip through the cracks.
Call this number, they call a couple numbers, no one picks up, forget about it. There's nothing out there for me.
Yes.
But that's not what you're going to get in this situation.
No, I am 100% there from the moment they call me until the moment they step into treatment, and even sometimes after treatment, if they'll sometimes call me and ask for suggestions, so I did this and now what do you recommend? So sometimes it's recovery coaching, sometimes it's a sober home, sometimes it's a halfway house, sometimes it's just outpatient therapy, but there's always a next step. So I'm definitely willing and able to support them even after they come out of treatment.
That sounds really helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Tara's wonderful, and I do recommend giving her a call if you are, or if you or someone you love is really struggling. Because as you said, Sam, people get discouraged very quickly. I mean, it's a deadly, discouraging disease, and the last thing you need when you're reaching out for help is to get frustrated or to have no one call you back or to treat you in a way that's not respectful. So, we want to make sure that when people are ready for help, that there's someone there to
hold their hand.
Exactly.
Which is what they need.
Absolutely.
A lot of hand-holding, no judgment.
Okay, so that's how to get help. What about upcoming events, other ways that we can get involved? We talk about every third Thursday at Recovery Centers of America at 9 a.m. for the Joint Coalition on Health meeting, which also provides a whole room full of resources as well.
Yes.
What else can we look forward to?
Well, I'll just add, in regard to the Joint Coalition on Health, we do meet once a month. We typically take July and August off.
Good to know.
So we'll be meeting tomorrow, and then we'll be meeting in June on the third Thursday, and that will be June 20th. And on June 20th, RCA, the Joint Coalition on Health, will be hosting DA Early's task force, opioid task force.
Oh, that sounds great.
And
that's a good one.
We did that last year, and it was a wonderful turnout, and it was just a really meaningful meeting where there was a lot of opportunities for people to connect and get information
and share their perspective as well with the opioid task force that's going on in Worcester County.
Right.
It affects everyone. Right. In this upcoming event, we're going to be focusing on medication-assisted treatment, which is a hot topic. So
like a Vivitrol.
Yes.
Or Suboxone?
Yes.
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 Yep.
So we have a panel discussion set up for that, some medical providers. I think it's going to be a really robust conversation, which is important because, you know, a lot of people are misinformed about what medication-assisted treatment is, you know, how to access it, you know, all of those kind of questions. And I think the more questions that we answer for people, the less stigma there's going to be. So it's going to be a lot of hopefully back and forth. There'll be a panel discussion, but we'll have lots of opportunity for questions and answers. And we'll also have some folks with lived experience with success using medication-assisted treatment to share their stories. So we're really excited about that.
So Thursday, June 20th, 9 a.m. at RCA in Westminster. That sounds like a great meeting.
Yep.
Yeah.
And for all the other events that are going on, where can we find a list of information or an email list? Or
Yeah, so the Joint Coalition has an email list. So I always recommend folks go there because any event that we have, we will publish through the email distribution list that we have. In addition to that, I try to post everything on the Joint Coalition Facebook page as well as the Facing Addiction in Fitchburg and Beyond Facebook page.
And how do we get on the email list?
You can email me at jointcoalitiononhealth.org.
Joint Coalition
on Health.
on Health at Gmail?
At Gmail.
At gmail.com.
I'm sorry, at gmail.com.
Joint Coalition on Health at gmail.com.
Yes, and you can email me and just ask to be on the distribution list. We don't send out a lot of emails. We try to keep it to 2 or 3 per week, and I try that they're very relevant to the community. But that's the best way to find out any upcoming meetings or trainings that we have. And I also answer a lot of questions, people just reaching out and asking for resources.
Thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you.
All right, great. So Joint Coalition on Health at gmail.com. If you send an email, you'll be added to the email list. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I'm just excited about our upcoming, meeting tomorrow and then in June as well. I think that if nothing else, I'd like to just encourage people to get involved. I think the more people, again, that get involved, get educated, the less stigma and hopefully the less suffering.
Come, sit down and listen.
Yes.
You don't need to speak.
And we feed you.
Oh, yes.
And I would just add that even if you don't know or you're not sure that maybe you'll hear something that you agree with, if you disagree, if you are concerned about medication-assisted treatment and think maybe it seems like a bad idea and you want to learn more, come. We will not judge you. Yep. It's fine to come and disagree. We can
even ask questions.
You can ask questions, and a lot of people are, really confused about medication-assisted treatment. It seems like one more drug, and that's a very understandable response from someone who is not in the medical field.
Right.
And we want to help people understand why it's not just adding another drug.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, Susan and Tara. We'll see you at the meeting.
Yes.
Tomorrow. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much for watching Discussing Fitchburg Now on FATV. We are now on with our Recovery Roundtable discussion. We're actually on a nice big couch.
I love it.
Yeah, I do like this. Yeah, so we're going to have a conversation on recovery and what that looks like for different people. So we have Keith Barnaby from AIDS Project Worcester, Donald Flagg, Crossing Over Sober House in Fitchburg, Mark Armstrong from Restoration Recovery Center
in Fitchburg.
In Fitchburg, Tara Rivera from Recovery Centers of America in Westminster.
Yes.
And Peter McKenna from ABC Counseling in Fitchburg also.
Yes.
So
Right behind
welcome,
Slattery's
everyone.
restaurant.
Right near Slattery's on Cully Street.
Right.
Fantastic. All right, thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So what's latest in the recovery discussions, Tara?
Oh, right to me. What's the latest in the recovery? I think that there's always something. I don't want to point the finger or anything, but we've had a lot of new Narcan trainings hitting our community, which I'm super excited about.
I saw the best Narcan training I've ever seen at Joint Coalition on Health, done by none other than Keith Barnaby.
Thank you very much.
So I think that that's super important, and I think that it's always a hot topic.
Narcan in general.
Right? You know, people don't understand it or have questions, or there's stigma even surrounding that. And I tell people, you know, even if you don't know someone that's struggling with addiction, or you yourself are not struggling with addiction, you never know what you're going to come across in the community. You could be at Target, you could be at the gas station, you know, anywhere, and come across someone who's, you know, in an active, you know, overdose. I carry Narcan everywhere I go. I don't have anybody in my immediate circle that is in active addiction, but what if? So it's just nice to have that. I mean, people are CPR certified, so it's just kind of, you know, taking that extra precaution.
For general community, you know, awareness.
Yes.
Yeah. I too took a Narcan training from AIDS Project Worcester, not by the fabulous Keith. But I have Narcan in my purse just in case.
Yes.
And I feel like I really hope I never have to use it.
Right. But you have it just in case, you know.
Right.
So just like someone carrying an EpiPen, or, you know, that sort of thing. So it's just that precautionary.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, I learned CPR. I hope I never had to use it. You know, but it was something that I felt it was necessary and important to learn. And I think in today's times, it's just as important.
Yeah, and Narcan training, you know, we've had a whole host of Narcan trainings that have been available to the community for free at no charge on a regular basis, right?
Yeah, so I've been doing it since January of this year. I think I'm up to like 90 trainings at this point. The program has been around since 2011, and since in the Worcester County with AIDS Project Worcester. It's funded by Department of Public Health, and that's who pays for the Narcan, pays for the trainings. And since 2011, there's been over 1,800 Narcans that have been used in an overdose that we've distributed. So that's 1,800 folks out there that had another day to make another choice, another decision. We gave them another day. Since I've taken over in January in North Worcester County, and that's my area, I'm up to just under 20 right now, Narcans that have been used. And the only reason we know is because when I do the trainings, we tell folks, if you do end up using Narcan, come back, let us know. So we can report that data, because it's good to have. It just shows that the program works. It works.
So of the 90 trainings, 20 have been used.
I've had 20 that I know about that have been used, and primarily it's a lot in the sober home, halfway house community. I've had a few from the Worcester County Sheriff's Office Department, and those folks, they're doing good stuff out there. They're changing their lives, but they seem to be in and around what's going on, and so they just happen to be in the right place at the right time.
And people in recovery are particularly susceptible to overdose, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yes. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, I think some of the statistics is that came out with is between 60 and 80% of relapses happen within the first 6 months of early recovery. And that's really where it's important to get people plugged in and supported, and then develop a lifestyle change, because it's not just being abstinence from the drugs or the alcohol. It's actually changing the way you live. I remember
Because there's an underlying problem.
there is. There's very undealt with trauma, life experiences that we've gone through, at least that I went through in my personal struggle with it, substance abuse disorder. Substance use disorder, excuse me. But through the 12-step process, I was able to finally deal with a lot of that underlying trauma that happened to me as a child. I was able to face it, deal with it, and I'm no longer bound by that. I've learned through recovery over the years, I've been in long-term recovery myself for going on 9 years now, on that, you know, to face my problems and not try to run from them, and not try to suppress my feelings by using a substance.
You know, you mentioned being in recovery and being at risk. One of the highest risks for an overdose is a person's tolerance. And certainly those folks, when I see the overdoses sometimes in the halfway homes or the sober homes, it's because they put some time together, some abstinence there. It's 3, 6, 9 months, and then maybe they do have a slip, but they have no tolerance now. And it's just too, the fentanyl's too strong.
What they used to use.
Yeah, and the fentanyl's too strong. It's just too strong. There's like 14 different varieties we've identified today. We keep finding new ones.
14 different varieties of fentanyl?
Of fentanyl, yeah,
Really?
on the streets right now. And so it's very, very dangerous. I mean, up to 50 to 100 times stronger than heroin. But that person's tolerance really plays a huge role in it. You see it a lot of times, folks coming out of the jail system, they haven't used for a period of time. It's a very, very high risk.
It's one of the most at-risk populations.
That's what exactly what it is.
Just recently recovered within 6 months.
Yeah, but the at-risk, a higher at-risk population is those getting released from prison.
Oh, okay.
So the prison population.
Because they were kind of forced into detox and recovery.
Right.
So the population inside the prisons is 3 to 3.7% higher than it is out here. And so they're just as much at risk, and sometimes people don't realize that they get their hands on a lot of things in prison. And there's a lot of overdoses that take place in prison.
In prison?
In prisons. And so when they release them or they're coming back out into the population, it's really important to get them plugged in. It's almost super important to get them plugged in because they're one of the most at-risk populations at risk to overdosing. And so that's one of those things that you don't hear a lot about because they don't really talk about reentry programs. But that's something that's going to be big in our area too, with Fitchburg coming into drug court. So if you think about those statistics that 70% of people that are in prison have something to do with a substance abuse disorder, they won't be placing them in prison anymore, right? So they're not putting people in prison for drug offenses. They're trying to curve away and realizing that putting someone in prison.
It's a medical issue. It's
not
right.
treatment.
Yeah.
There's no treatment.
They're not getting any treatment in prison, right? They're doing a lot of great programs now. I think you must talk about a lot of them, the STOP program. And so they have a lot of them, but to the amount of the population, it's only like a percentage that could actually get into these programs before they get released.
And those folks too, they have like a period of time put together just to reinforce it. Like even though someone who's active, just not using for 2 days, that person's tolerance will drop. And
2 days?
Just 2 days. So maybe they got in some trouble, they got arrested. Maybe they went to detox for a few days. Maybe they have no money and no hustle, and they just can't get drugs, and their tolerance will drop. And when they do pick up, their tolerance dropped down, but the strength of the drug didn't change. And so they're at real high risk there.
Hence the importance for general Narcan training for the general population, because this is affecting everyone. This is affecting so many people in our community, people from every socioeconomic, demographic.
Yes.
You know what's really beautiful is that people don't realize is that everybody at this panel right here today, we all play a role in the recovery community. I work with him closely with some of my guys. Mark's going to be working with my guys. He's going to be coming doing training at the sober houses, providing them with initial training. Some of these guys, even though they're in active addiction, have never seen, maybe some of them have never seen an overdose. You can't assume that just because somebody has an addiction or they suffer from a disorder that they've seen that. We sometimes will think, well, they're used to that life. No, unfortunately, you got some 23-year-old kids who've never seen it in their life. And so
with the advent of fentanyl, now overdoses are more common than they ever used to be.
Absolutely.
go ahead.
When I was in active addiction, I had a few people that had died from overdoses, but not many. I know a lot more people that have succumbed to overdoses since I've been in recovery than when I was in active addiction. Just because of the introduction of fentanyl.
What's been the challenges for you to keep people consistent with, because I know we know even with guys in my house, it's been a challenge, right, to keep them consistent with their counseling and their therapy. So
it's outreach. It's reaching out to people who need our services. The great thing is we've got a lot more tools than we used to have in our toolbox for dealing with addiction. We've got motivational interviewing and EMDR, eye movement desensitization, and reprocessing. We've got biofeedback. We've got neurofeedback. We've got a lot of tools in our tool belt for dealing with addiction.
Is that kind of like a hypnotherapy?
Hypnotherapy is a treatment.
Another tool?
Yeah, another tool in the toolbox. Yeah, I mean, the advent of motivational interviewing has changed substance abuse treatment tremendously.
What is motivational interviewing?
Motivational interviewing is assisting clients in moving through the stages of change from pre-contemplation to contemplation. So a person goes from, no, I really don't think I have a problem, into, well, yeah, maybe I do. And now what am I going to do about that? And okay, I'm ready to do something about that. What are my resources for making those changes? And then moving on into the maintenance phase, the last phase of change, in which the person now becomes acclimated to the changes that they've made. in their addiction. So
It kind of sounds like a 12-step, like a parallel.
yeah, certainly. I mean, we ask people, you know, where are you? And meeting people exactly where they are. So the outreach programs and the ability to reach out to people and say, you know what, maybe you're not in that place yet, but when you get there, this is what's available to you. So to reach out to people, anytime we have an interaction with somebody who has a substance use disorder, there's an opportunity to help that person move along in recovery. So whether it's a police officer, whether it's a priest, whether it's an outreach worker, whatever it is, whenever there's an opportunity to meet up with somebody who has a substance use disorder and just kind of move them along
in the process.
you know, and offer them an opportunity to say, well, maybe you're not here yet, but when you do get here, this is what's open for you, and go there.
Are there like hubs of these outreach, you know, to be able to connect to services? Where do people go? What's the most common, you know, kind of hub of where people are sent?
So we don't have a hub per se. Years and years ago, those of us who have been around a long time remember the MAC Center downtown Leominster.
Sure.
MAC Center?
The MAC Center downtown Leominster was a drop-in center, and it was open, you know, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And there was a morning meeting and a noon meeting and a night meeting, and it was open during the day. And there was always literature there and resources and coffee. So we didn't have anything like that for a long time. So now Mark is creating our Restoration Recovery Center. So we're going to have it's a peer recovery drop-in center.
A peer recovery drop-in center.
Support center, For, and our main focus is on helping people stay plugged into recovery. Initially, you can get them into treatment, but we find once they get out of treatment, if they don't go into a long-term program, they end up back out on the streets. If they don't have access to a job, to a car, to a place to live, they quickly lose that hope that they got in treatment, and they end up back out on the streets, back out hanging with the same old friends that they had. And like Keith said, they don't have that tolerance anymore, so once they start using, they're more susceptible to overdose. So we're opening at 40 Fairmont Street, the old Cleghorn Youth Center.
Oh,
We're leasing that building
that is a great location.
From the Montezut Opportunity Council. The building is currently undergoing some repairs. It's been neglected over the past few years, and we're looking to open in the middle of July.
The middle of July.
That's
our Restoration Recovery Center at the old Cleghorn Youth Center, right at Daniel Street Park.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're one of the key things we're looking. He mentioned motivational interviewing. That's one of the key tools used in recovery coaching.
Okay.
And it's also a different pathway as opposed to the 12 steps. We're looking at offering recovery coach training at the center through grant funding, where we can help people who may have struggled with substance use disorder get into recovery, but it gives them an opportunity to get trained and to get plugged back in and give back to the community.
There's nothing like teaching others, you know, what you've learned to also reinforce your own knowledge.
An active way to give back. And I think one of the beautiful things about motivational interviewing and what's happening is that you get the individual to become an active participant in their recovery plan. And so when you help empower them to make a decision of their next step, they're more apt to own it. Instead of you saying, this is what you're going to do. Like we were saying, we give them options. They may not be ready for the options, but we let them and we say, what do you think works for you? What can you agree to? And so as they become along this process, like I tell them, a lot of times the old way used to be like, I'd get a sponsor and he's going to tell me what to do. Right?
That's kind of what you see on the movies and TV.
Yeah, this is what you're going to do. Sit down, shut up. This is what you're going to do. Well, I don't know if that works for any kids nowadays, right? You tell a kid to sit down and shut up, you lost them.
Doesn't work for mine.
Doesn't work that way. So it's a really great tool, and we use it a lot in our house.
Motivational interviewing.
And so it is a skill set, and it goes a long way. And when you get the individual to own their part of the recovery, they get excited about that next step. And so I'm really excited about what's happening here in the local community. You know, I get to work with all these individuals, and when you see a full round cycle come through, it works great. You know, when they come across and they go into a facility, and then they get out of the facility and we meet with them and they come into our program, and then they go over to his counseling, and then they're in our program in our structured environment.
When they get in a Narcan training from AIDS Project.
He's coming over, he's coming over, he's going to do Narcan training. We got a really young house right now, and some guys that are 23, 24 years old, and they've never even seen the training. So it's really good to empower them, to educate them, you know. So we're trying to do full services, because you're right, you know, they have to learn to deal with some of these traumas, you know. And unfortunately, we don't realize that some of these kids that come in have some serious trauma.
Serious trauma.
And, you know, and if you don't address that and keep them in a safe place so they can work through that, you're setting them up to fail.
You really have to address the problems in a full spectrum.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, it's not just solving the substance issue. It's also, you know, the reasons behind why you've gone this.
So
you know,
true.
why you have a substance issue. Why you're now facing this addiction.
One of the things that we've learned about treatment is the services have to be what they call wraparound
I was just going to say
services.
that. That was my key word. Yep.
In which they surround the person with what do you need, where are you, and from that place that you're at, what is it that you're going to be needing to stay sober or stay clean, or meeting people exactly where they are. I have people who come to me and say, you know what, I want to learn how to drink socially. And I say,
Really?
you know what?
Like they were alcoholics?
You know, I mean, it's like I meet the person where they are. If that's what you want to do, you tell me what that's going to take, and I'll help you do that.
I've never heard that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've never heard someone that, you know, was addicted to alcohol quit and then say, you know what? I'd like to be able to drink, but manage it.
I think we'd all like to be social drinkers. I mean, you know.
Well,
Right.
once again, look, this is what this looks like, you know, from what you're telling me.
This is what it means to be a social drinker.
Right. So let's try that. And what's that going to look like if you succeed? What's it going to look like if you don't succeed? And if you don't succeed, where would you like to go from that point on?
Yeah.
You know, so
So
meeting
these are motivational
He's
interviews.
exactly what he's doing.
So
That's exactly
meeting
what
the
he's doing.
person where they are.
Yep.
Making me take responsibility for my
Exactly.
decisions.
If you're telling me you want to be a social drinker, that's fine. What is that going to take? What is that going to look like?
Like, yeah, how's that affect you?
If you can do that, that's fine. I'll be glad to help you do that. But if that's not going to work, how are we going to know that's not working? And what are we going to do after that? You know. So meeting people where they are. It's an important facet of motivational interviewing.
You can't help anybody who isn't in a position to know that they want help or to have the willingness to ask for help. So if they're, like he says, if they're in a pre-contemplation stage or even in denial stage, like they're not.
Like, I don't really have a problem.
Yeah. So if you have somebody who says I don't have a problem, you can't help them. Like if somebody's got a broken arm but is convinced that their arm's not broken, you can't bring them to the hospital and get fixed. They don't think they have a broken arm. It's pretty obvious. Everybody else can see it, but you're in denial. You know what I mean? You know. Well, let me know how that arm works for you then. You know, go ahead and go play ball with it, and let me see how it works. And if you think you have a problem, then we'll address it. And we can take you to the hospital. It's kind of that same thing.
Well, hearing this is what we used to call denial. Now we call it ambivalence. You know.
Yeah.
You know your arm hurts. Maybe it's broken, maybe it's not. What would that look like if it was broken?
That sounds more accurate, ambivalence, as opposed to denial.
Right.
It's like, no, I don't have a problem. Like, I got a little problem, but I'm fine.
Right.
That's more ambivalent.
Yeah. And one technique is to come along with somebody. Hey, you know what? Why is your wife sending you here? Why is she saying you're having a problem? I don't see a problem. Well, I don't know. I spend a lot of money and. Really? You think that's a problem? So coming alongside to somebody and saying, you know what, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Let's look at this. Let's honestly look at what's going on. And if you do, well, then we'll address that. If you don't, that's great. You know, my
So
door's
many people
always
just
open.
need to have those conversations, really.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to have that conversation with your family and your friends.
Well, the family member's traumatized just as much.
Yeah, and well, usually the family members and friends are more accusatory and, you know, look, like, you have a problem, or they just withdraw completely.
Well, those are usually the people that you've hurt the most.
Right.
So those are the ones with your last name.
Because, you know, for me, I told them I was going to change. I'm ready to change. Yet I would continue to do the same thing over and over and over. And finally, after a while, those second chances they give you dry up.
There used to be a sign in the Mac Center that said, alcoholism's not a spectator sport. Sooner or later, everybody gets to play. You know? And
So true.
you know, the people,
Family disease.
and so that's important to bring in the players. What have you seen? What does this look like? Why do you think that's a problem? So it's important to bring in the players and say, what's your wife saying about all this? What's your daughter saying about this? So,
You know, it's really great too when you inform. It is a family disease, and so
Genetically, you mean?
well, genetically, and I say it affects everybody. But genetically, you're right too. No, you're absolutely right. So, you know, one of my largest experiences and one of the things that I've been working a lot with is that when we have the younger population, 23, 24-year-olds, and it seems that I have a lot of those in my house right now, we tend to work a lot with the parents. And there's a lot of tough conversations that need to happen with the parents. They know their kid needs help. They know they need to put them somewhere, but they don't recognize that they've picked up some unhealthy habits that continue to enable this young child to continue to engage or participate in his addiction. And they don't realize that, you know, I tell them, I'm not asking you to stop loving them, I'm just trying to ask you to do it a different way. We're trying to learn a new way, because what you did as a kid growing up to raise this child, the tools that you learned and the way that you loved them are no longer working for this young individual. And so we have to learn new ways, and they have to learn about the disease of addiction, and that's why the Learn to Cope things are so good. I work closely privately with parents, and when you begin to get everybody on the same page, you will see a drastic change in the individual.
What's an example of a way that a family member might be dealing with or treating another family member in addiction that isn't the right approach?
Well, all right, so if I was to say, for an example, let's say I have a young individual who's in my house who we know has a problem spending money. He's there, obviously they gotta work, and the mom will just continuously send him money. Mom, I need money for this. He gives him money, he's not working, the kid can't hold money. We know that's a problem, and now the kid's running around with $150 or whatever, and the mom will send him money. That could be one incident of a situation. Another one could be the parents, no matter what he says, they'll allow him to come right back home. You know, they'll say, okay, you gotta go, and he'll say, hey, we start holding him responsible and accountable to the recovery plan that we put in play, to the expectations that we have in the house, and the parents will say, well, okay, he can come home. And so you never really put them in a position where they have to own responsibility. And so the parents are scared to death too. Let's be honest. These parents
They're
are
afraid to say no.
Well, they just don't know what to do. Like, you know, a lot of these parents, unfortunately, have had to Narcan their young kids. And so when you are paralyzed, when you don't know what to do, and everything that you have done is no longer working, and it's life or death, you're scared. And so it's really good to come along with some people that have experienced that. Learn to Cope is formal, like we keep talking about it, or get a recovery coach.
Learn to Cope meeting on Tuesday nights.
Tuesday nights, Haywood Hospital, 7 p.m. There's also recovery conversations. Kate Duffy does that. It's kind of interesting because I've been around for quite a few, years now, and back when I got sober, there was not such a thing as Learn to Cope. It was Al-Anon, but it wasn't such a huge emphasis on the family support or family education. And I think that now I've seen this whole paradigm shift kind of come where it's like really focused on the family. It's a family disease. Mom and dad need to understand, or my husband and my wife needs to understand. And I think that's a really important factor in the aftercare, right? So if the individual has been in active addiction for 5, 10, 15 years, and the parents are still involved or the loved one is still involved, there's probably an awful lot of enabling happening, right? So those are all behaviors that are not conducive to that person's recovery anymore. So just because, I go into treatment and I get better, it's not just about me. Like, mom and dad need to also understand the disease of addiction, the possibility of relapse, and how to love without enabling, and how to have healthy boundaries, and all of those things, so that when the person goes back home or into that environment, whether it's a husband or wife or whatever the situation is, everything needs to change. All
they don't fall back into their old habits, and their old habits are not reinforced by the same old situation.
One of the big things you help them to understand is you help them with the shame and the guilt, because a lot of parents feel that they failed. Absolutely. I failed. There's something that I did wrong, And so like Tara said, when you educate them and get them to know what the disease of addiction is and understand that it is a disease or it's not a moral issue, because they're great kids. They're great young adults. Like these kids light up when they come to my house and they start changing over and they start doing things and they help out. Like they just light up. You just see their worlds change. And you know, they want to help each other. And one of the things that I think is happening in our community that we don't really get to see because there's not really no thermometer to test how it's changing, but the recovery community is actually changing. And I think it's changing because there's a lot of services that are taking place. And so anytime you begin to change the mindset of recovery and people recover, they help one, go help one. And so in the meetings and in these recovery meetings that you're starting to see in the local community, the recovery is changing. It's becoming more serious. You're seeing people actually do the steps. You're seeing people actually hold people accountable. You're actually going and hearing a good meeting, learning about the disease of addiction.
Family members are there. They're teaching other family members who might be new to the process.
Yeah, family members or even just individuals like to the meetings that we have here locally. You know, the AA and the NA community themselves are changing. And I think it has a lot to do with the sober houses, the counseling that's in play, the resources that are in play. We're educating them a lot more. They're understanding it more. And so there's a trickle-down effect that's happening. Even with the services that are here, it's actually going out into the community and people are actually recovering. And when you see somebody recover, come on, you'd be like, yo, how did you do it? You know, I want it too. If it can happen to him, it can happen to me, right? And
it's
so
contagious.
How did you do it? I want to do it. And so, you know, so there is a ground root level that takes place too.
Yeah, some of the strongest bonds I have are with people in the recovery community. I actually spend more time with them, hang out more with them than I do with the friends that I grew up with. That's just, you know, where I'm at. It's the people I'm surrounded. It's part of that lifestyle change. Surrounding yourself with like-minded people who make different choices in their lives. I got a gentleman where I work, he's retiring. They're having his retirement party at a bar. They asked me, are you going to go? And I said, no, I'm not. And if I went, would I drink? Probably not, but that's just an environment that I don't want to be around. And no disrespect to any of my coworkers, it's just, I know where going to bars brought me, you know, when I was out there struggling on the street. And part of my lifestyle change is I don't go to bars anymore, you know, I don't.
So you hang around with more like-minded people?
That do healthy recovery things, and it's actually the most enjoyable my life's ever been.
I think one of the most important things we've learned about recovery is it's not a one-size-fits-all.
That's right.
Yes.
That's
I mean, people will stop and then they'll say, well, will my life be like this forever? And it's like, no, it's not permanent, it's not personal, and it's not something that's going to be like this forever, you know? Will I never be able to go into a bar room again? Well, you know what? Quite frankly, if you're not able to go into a place where there's alcohol, you're going to be in trouble. I mean, every restaurant serves alcohol. So, I mean, to be able to say, you know what, tell me about your triggers. Neurons that fire together wire together, and that's what triggers are. They're things that we associate. So you may look at this coffee cup or a spoon and say, it's a spoon in a coffee cup, but an addict may look at that and go, I used to cook up with that, you know, that's a trigger for me. So, you know, desensitizing those triggers for people, you know, it's important to be able to say, you know, you're going to be able to live a normal life. You're not going to be triggered for the rest of your life. It's going to be okay.
The wraparound services to be able to handle you at every stage.
Right.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
And I think that, sorry.
I was just going to say, let's take a short break here, and we're going to have a little PSA talking about the Fitchburg Farmers Market, and then we'll come back to our discussion on recovery.
Nice.
Hi, Sam Squalia here with Ann Yeagle of Growing Places. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Great. We're talking about the Fitchburg Farmers Market, which starts June 6th at the Upper Common in Fitchburg. All kinds of fun things planned for this year, right, Ann?
Every year it gets better and better because we learn every year what people want.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
So what is the schedule looking like?
So it starts June 6th, as you said, every Thursday until the end of October, 3 to 6 p.m. on the Upper Common. But a little bit different this year. In addition to our healthy, fresh local produce, grown locally from our farms, and the artisans and makers who make things.
Fudge and stuff.
Some fudge. We just got, I I think someone who does bread and some pastry. Yeah,
bread and pastry.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. So we're also doing fun activities.
Yeah.
So we've always had live music at the market, and that's
So live music every week.
every week, sponsored by the Fitchburg Cultural Council.
Fantastic.
But also, in addition to that, we are doing placemaking activities. And so what that means is that we're doing fun things for people of all ages to come and stay there for a little while.
From kids to adults.
All the way to older adults.
So there's going to be alpacas one week.
There is.
There's going to be pumpkin painting on Halloween.
There's
What are
going to
the-
be
what are the fun
worms.
things? Ooh, worms.
There's going to be vermicomposting.
Learn how worms can make your garden better.
Absolutely, and how they help save the earth.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And then the first week, June 6th,
June 6th.
we are going to be doing make your own farmers market bags out of recycled t-shirts.
Perfect, because everyone has tons of t-shirts that they don't use anymore.
Tons, whether your kids grow out of them, you have a hole or a stain on it, take your t-shirt and we're going to show you how to make a bag out of it that you can use all season long.
So Thursday, June 6th, the farmers market starts. You can go to the Upper Common, bring a t-shirt, you'll be able to make a produce bag, and there'll be all kinds of great things going on there. And for more information, you can go to the Fitchburg Farmers Market Facebook page, and you can see all the events so you don't forget. And you can also go to the website at fitchburgfarmersmarket.org. Right?
Yeah, and you can always call our offices at Growing Places too. So if you have a question or if you're interested in vending at the market, another thing, right? So we allow new vendors to come all the time. Just give us a call. We love them to come. It's all about getting the community involved.
That's right.
Give our office a call, Growing Places. We have a website too, www.growingplaces.org.
You can find all the information there as well.
You can.
Do you have the phone number for Growing Places?
I do. It's 978-598-3723.
So every Thursday from June 6th, every single week, all the way up to October 31st, head down to the Upper Common in Fitchburg from 3 to 6 p.m. and hang out. Yeah, listen to the
Come have
music,
fun. It's
shop, get your fill of the produce. Okay, great. Anything else did we miss?
No, just come on down. We're
right.
excited to see you.
Yeah, we'll see you there. All right, thank you. And welcome back to Discussing Fitchburg Now. We are going to continue our discussion on recovery with our roundtable guests that are sitting on a couch.
That's right. This lovely couch. This is amazing.
I know,
Comfortable.
I love it.
Like,
I just
The
love
round
it.
coach.
you know?
So continuing on our conversation, I would like to learn more about the Restoration Recovery Center that is opening in Fitchburg at 40 Fairmount Street maybe in July.
Yes,
Yes.
that's our target goal, depending on when they finish the renovations to the
So
building.
now, what will the services that you provide be?
Well, we will provide like faith-based services, Christian recovery meetings like Celebrate Recovery, Life Healing Choices, but we're also offering AA and NA meetings. We've already come to agreement with a few people who are looking to move their meetings to our location, as well as offering recovery coach training. And I just had a wonderful conversation over here with him about him stopping by and doing some motivational interview training at our center, as well as Keith. We've reached out to him to come and do some Narcan training. But we're also going to focus on different pathways to recovery, because like it was stated, the 12 steps aren't the only way anymore.
12 steps, there's Celebrate Recovery,
Yeah.
there's motivational interviewing.
But we're also looking to offer art therapy classes and music therapy classes. We have a lot of artists that we've come in contact with in recovery that are excited about helping back and giving back. Like I said, not everyone communicates well and sits down and wants to do the 12 steps, but they can express themselves where they're at in their recovery, meeting them where they're at, maybe through art, through music.
Yeah.
We have a partnership with an animal sanctuary out in Hubbardston that have offered riding lessons to people as
Horse
they've
riding.
had horse riding. They've had success with children who struggle with autism, and making breakthroughs with them on that. And
Really?
they've offered their services to us, as well as helping people break through in their recovery and who struggle with addiction. That way, we have come
What an
to
opportunity.
we have an amazing opportunity with the Worcester County Sheriff's Office that is so amazing in this area, what they do.
I just went to one of their graduation ceremonies.
Amazing.
Oh.
That was probably the only one I missed in the last 2 years, so I missed you.
Office of
Office of Community Corrections.
Office of Community Corrections. Yes, they had a graduation of, I think, seven
Yep.
men.
Yes.
And their families were there. It was a really nice ceremony.
That
They
was
all
a job.
spoke, all 4 that were able to attend, they all spoke about, you know, their...
Nice.
I think the last one I attended was
was
they had 18
18.
graduates.
18.
So they're doing
That's good.
amazing things, but the center will provide an opportunity for people to come and volunteer and get plugged in. I know community service is big. It'll give them an opportunity to get some community service hours.
Community services needed.
Yeah.
We've got a partnership with SNAP and Pathways to Work here in Fitchburg.
Oh, yeah.
Helping people get plugged in for job opportunities, as well as the LINK program at Mount Wachusett Community College.
So you're being that hub that I was talking
Yeah.
about.
Well, if you go to our website
Wraparound.
at,
Yeah, that
at
wraparound hub.
rrcifitchburg.com and
RCI Fitchburg?
rrcifitchburg.com and click on resources, there's a link to every sober house here in the community, detox program, food pantry, housing opportunities. It's literally a click away. So we've done a lot of the work. The background, we're just putting it really at the click of someone's finger where they can, see what's available and who to contact to get in. Because we don't want to duplicate services that already exist in the city of Fitchburg. We just want to get people to where they need to be in recovery.
Help people to connect to those services that they need. Hold their hand.
Right,
Yes.
exactly.
I'm excited for it.
So when we were talking about the Office of Community Corrections, that was a huge part of our Doing the Facing Addiction in Fitchburg and Beyond application process. So to be a designated city for that, they wanted to know, A, did we have a problem here, which obviously we do, but B, what are you currently doing, to fix or remedy that problem in the Office of Community Corrections, and the fact that our Fitchburg Police Department is so progressive.
Yes.
Our Fitchburg Court is super supportive of the recovery community. A lot of those were a big reason as to why we became a facing addiction city, which is really cool.
Yeah, pretty much every graduate thanked Judge Locanto for
He's amazing. We're
his-
so lucky to have him. I attend drug court in Worcester, also Deadly. There's another drug court in East Brookfield, and they're going to be creating a drug court here in Fitchburg. And it takes a special kind of person, to A, understand addiction, but B, really be supportive of kind of that pathway, right? So Donald talked about, not persecuting or punishing someone with an addiction issue. Obviously, if they're drug trafficking, they need to handle that. But I mean, if it's an offense because they were
addicted,
right? And stealing something from a store, or you know what I mean, things like that. The judge is so good about listening to where they came from and giving them that opportunity, so do you have a problem? If you have a problem, are you willing to seek help? We have this program. Are you willing to, enroll in this program? And he's so supportive the whole way through, and he never misses a graduation.
Oh yeah,
So
he was there. So is the Fitchburg Drug Court, is it similar to the program that we've been using with the Sheriff's Department and
Yeah.
Judge Locanto?
So yes, so
it's just a more
currently
kind of formal process?
It's right now it's kind of like a jail diversion program, right? So when it becomes like an official drug court, there's going to be a drug court clinician involved, which we don't have currently right now. So there's a lot of other players, probably a recovery coach or someone in that capacity. And then other treatment providers like, Donald Sober House and, a community therapist, that specializes in substance use disorders. So there's a lot more players that are actually at the table when it comes to supporting a drug court.
So another hub, but just from the,
From the legal system.
from the legal system perspective.
Right.
I think the most important thing is that people move through the stages of change, but the one thing that is pretty consistent is people move back too.
Right.
So the stages of change are not one continuum. People go back, they relapse. They relapse to a previous stage of change. So I think that the most important thing is that we're not going to, if you relapse to a previous stage of change where you return to drug use or whatever, we're not going to reject you. We're going to work with you. We're going to find out what works, and we're going to do that. And we're not going to punish you for doing what's natural. I mean, everybody goes through the stages of change, regardless of
Whether it's
who they
recovery or
are.
not.
Yeah, whether it's recovery or not. And so very often, hey, I want to buy that. Well, maybe not. Can I afford that? So, you know, you're going through the stages of change. Well, I bought it, but I don't like it, so I'm going to bring it back. You know, so we, you know, the stages of change are not one continuous thing. There's something that people go back, and relapse is part of that change.
Right.
And it's important to tell people, you know what, if that happens, this is what we'll do.
We'll deal with it.
Right.
This is where we'll go.
I've had a few opportunities to sit in some of the meetings that take place at the drug courts, and I was so impressed. They literally meet, and the judge will go in, the district attorney will go in, the caseworkers will all come in, they'll have advocates, lawyers, advocates, and they go in with all the cases, and they sit around a table, and they have a whole discussion about one person. And they go through and they say, okay, how's he doing? Where are they at? What are we recommending? Where's he gonna go? How's this gonna happen? Is this gonna go down? Doing great, they're graduating, great, move them up, we're gonna move. And I sat there and I was just like, look at all the attention that goes in behind the scenes for one individual.
Yeah.
It's no longer, like, it's almost impossible for them to fall through the gap because, you know, everybody's talking at this table. And so I had the honor of sitting at this table and realizing the impact that we can have in it, because now we're a stable hub, and I actually had the opportunity to be a recipient of some of those people and see them graduate through the program, level up, have their graduations, go to the graduation ceremonies, and now these individuals are out on their own. And it's just, we all have a unique part to play. And if we just do our part well and continue to communicate, it's amazing when it comes together.
Changing one life can make a profound difference on really the
everything.
community itself.
There's a ripple effect in that one life, because you've touched that life now. That person gets plugged into recovery, and they go out and they pour out into other people, and that ripple just continues to expand. Expand, and next thing you know, there's a ton of people in recovery, and they're all connected. They're all connected, and we're all plugged in. And you know, it's been amazing to see through the Celebrate Recovery meeting that we do at Crossroads Community Church on Thursday nights. There was a family wrapped up in addiction. The wife had overdosed. She was Narcan 3 times. They lost their kids to DCF custody. That was that.
I saw her.
That was that
spaghetti stuff.
That broke that for her. That was her breaking point, where she got into recovery, and now the family's together. They got their children back, and she's actually working at Recovery Centers of America now,
Helping other people.
helping other people. So it's that pay it forward mentality in recovery that's so valuable.
And really helps probably strengthen your own recovery,
It does.
knowing that you're
It
doing
does.
good for other people.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's great to see so many different types of treatment, of resources and supports. Like we're thinking outside the box, and that's what we need to do because of the problem we have today since fentanyl is at the scene. Like in having all these different things, not just AA or the traditional way, which is nothing wrong with that, but having alternatives to that as well.
Right. It's not a one-size-fit-all approach. It's not just AA and 12 steps anymore. There's a whole different I don't know, spectrum of offerings for you.
I feel like there's something for everybody out there treatment-wise. You just got to figure out what's going to work for you. And sometimes that's trial and error, and it takes a little bit of time to figure that out.
And that's where the motivational interviewing you were talking about is key. It's getting that person to where they need to be, but like Donald said, not telling them where they need to go, allowing them to figure it out themselves.
Right.
Make their own commitments.
Make their own commitments, yes.
And then what you want to do is empower their choice, right? Because anybody who is under the influence, the first thing that is robbed is choice. Like, you no longer have the choice.
Like, I have to do this right now.
Yeah, well, I just speak for myself. When I was struggling, when I was in active addiction, I did a lot of things. Like, it wasn't a choice. Like, if I felt like I wanted to drink, I drank. If I felt like the option of choose wasn't there, and it brought me to a lot of places I didn't want to be. You know, I engaged and accepted a lot of things to come into my life that today I would never accept. And so when you empower them with motivational speaking and you get them to recognize that not only are you no longer under the substance and the physical and the mental obsession of the use, you have a choice today. You're reckoning, so when we encourage them to make a small choice, whether it's a small change, you're showing them that the most greatest thing that they have is their choice. And they never have to give it up again. And one of the things that I've seen, and I don't know if you can experience this in probably, is that People that I've experienced that struggle with disorder, when they come back around, it's scary to make decisions in recovery because they're so afraid of making a mistake. You know, it's a scary thing because they're used to living in the fire. You know, now the water's calmed, and what do I do? How do I communicate with mom well, and how do I go get a job, and how do I make healthy decisions? What's good for me and to pay my bills? Like, and so literally, I have conversations like we map it out for them, and we encourage them to make a decision.
Well, at that, I'm going to stop you there because we are ending. We are coming to the end of our hour. Thank you so much for watching and talking about recovery conversations with us. Thank you to Keith from AIDS Project Worcester, Donald Flagg from Crossing Over Sober House, Mark Armstrong from Restoration Recovery coming to Fairmount Street in Fitchburg, Tara Rivera, Recovery Centers of America, and Peter McKenna from ABC Counseling in Fitchburg.
All Fitchburg.
All Fitchburg. So thank you so much.